Welcome back to day 16 of 31 monsters in 31 days. Let's find out who we are making today. Ooh, nice. One of my favorites. Today we are making Mothman.
While we're sketching out the plan and making the basic blob shape that all the monsters in this series are built off of, I'm going to give you a bit of a history of Mothman. If you want to see slower step-by-step instructions on how to make this basic blob form, check out this video. For details on how I do my paper mache, check out this video. Both are linked in the description. Mothman is a cryptid who comes to us from Point Pleasant, West Virginia, USA. In the late 1960s, people in Point Pleasant reported seeing a large, winged, man-sized creature with red, glowing eyes. The Batman TV series and comics were really popular at the time, and it's believed by some that the supervillain Killer Moth may have led to local newspapers coining the name Mothman. According to urban legend, sightings of the Mothman may be omens of coming disasters. The most well-known example of this is that Mothman was seen shortly before the collapse of Point Pleasant's Silver Bridge, which resulted in the death of 46 people. Author John A. Keel investigated the Mothman sightings and the cryptid's apparent ability to predict disaster in his 1975 book, The Mothman Prophecies. The book was made into a movie that developed a cult following by people who liked its eerie atmosphere and a supernatural, spooky theme. Mothman as a character seems to be getting more and more popular. He's the subject of several documentaries and independent films. He appears in the tabletop card game Magic the Gathering, the video game Fallout 76. Heck, you can even get a Mothman plush at Build-A-Bear. As he's evolving into a pop culture icon, Mothman has been fully embraced by the town of Point Pleasant, which hosts a permanent Mothman statue and an annual Mothman festival. My next step is to make Mothman's eyeballs. I'll need those to dry before I can add them to his face. I'm sculpting these with DOS air dry clay. This is my favorite air dry clay. I'll leave a link for this clay and my other supplies in the video description. I very carefully sculpted this pair of oval eyeballs, but then last minute I decided they really needed to be much bigger, so I made a bigger set. Now here's big dry eyeballs. I'm smoothing them out with one of these nail files I like for this job. This makes the eyes perfectly smooth. Just remember to protect your lungs if you're going to sand dry clay yourself. Now that the eyes are perfectly smooth, I'm base coating the eyeballs in red paint. While the paint's still a little bit tacky, I'm using a soft and fluffy brush to dab on some of these mica powders. I'll leave a link to the mica powders that I have in my supply list, but if you don't need a whole bunch, check out what your dollar store has for glittery eyeshadows. Sometimes they've got something there that will work for a fraction of the price. Anyhow, I'm dabbing on my mica powder to give the eyes a glittery effect, then dry brushing a bit of black around the edges to make them look a little extra spooky. Finally, I'm giving them a nice glossy protective top coat with a generous helping of UV resin. After fully curing the resin, I'm hot gluing the eyes to the blob. I'm so glad I made bigger eyeballs. These are looking great. I'm going to use these 4 small strips of black fabric to make eyelids. From here, I'm basically just treating the fabric like paper. I'm saturating it with my paper mache paste, then twisting up a little scrap of paper towel and folding it inside the fabric like a little taco. This makes the eyelid a little bit plump. I'm wrapping the fabric taco under Mothman's eye, then using some of my brown paper to smooth over the edges of the fabric. Of course, I'll repeat that on the other eye. Then use the same fabric taco technique to make the upper eyelids too. Now, Mothman needs some antennae, so I'm gonna make some with these bits of fencing wire. I'm twisting some dry paper around the wire, then taping it in place, compressing the paper into this teardrop shape. Of course, I'll make another one, then cover both of those in a couple layers of paper mache. Mothman also needs wings, and if you've been watching this series, you know that wings are something I struggle with. So I'm trying out yet another wing making method today. I'm starting with some aluminum armature wire, and I'm wrapping paper and tape around it to make what will be like an internal arm thingy that will support our wing. I'm going to put black fabric on these, but I'm not sure if you'll be able to see the limb through the fabric, so I'm going to paper mache them with this black paper so they're camouflaged in there. This black construction paper is a little bit thicker than the brown paper I normally work with, so I'm scrunching and unscrunching the paper a few times to soften it up. This makes it easier to work with. I'm covering both wing limbs with a coat of paper and then setting them aside to dry. Here they are dry. Now my plan is to put the fabric over the arms like this, and I'm going to sew along the back here and under the arm so the fabric fits tightly. I did all my hand sewing off camera, and this is coming together now. I'm using my fabric scissors to trim the bottom of each wing into the shape I want. So now, this might seem nuts, but I'm fully soaking the whole wing in my paper mache glue now. I'm really brushing it on firmly so the glue gets into all the layers. And now I'm gonna hang these up to dry like this so that the wings dry flat. Now all that gluey fabric is dry. I'm using my scissors to crease the fabric and fold in the wings like this. And holy crap, I actually really like how these look. I think the folds look really natural and the wings aren't too thick and chunky looking. We might have found a wing method I like, folks. All right, so now we need to just take the parts of our Mothman and put them together. I'm using my craft knife to poke some holes in Mothman's back, and I can just stick the ends of the armature wire in there and hot glue the wings in place. Easy peasy. I'm doing the same thing with the antennae, just cutting a couple holes, sticking the wire ends in there, and then securing with some hot glue. I'm doing one last little bit of paper mache to cover up the joints on both the antennae and the wings. And then we'll let that dry one last time. Mothman's paint job is really simple. He's getting an overall coat of matte black. I'm not even bothering to paint the wings or the eyelids. I'm using some faux fur to give Mothman some fuzzy antenna and a little beard. I like to cut my fur into strips. I just find it's a lot easier to work with this way. I'm using a fresh craft blade to slide through the backing of the fur fabric. In my experience, this is the best way to do it to limit the amount of loose hairs everywhere. Cutting with scissors is a lot more messy. Now, I'm paying attention to the direction that the fur lays while I'm working with it here. I'm gluing it onto the antenna so it looks like the fur is growing up. And I'm hot gluing the beard around his chest so it looks like it's growing down. Finally, I'm using a cotton bud dipped in rubbing alcohol to clean off his eyeballs. I'm also gluing some black felt onto the bottom of the sculpture as a final finishing touch. And here's our finished Mothman. How do you like them? Let me know in the comments. I try to reply to all of them. Thanks so much for watching to the end. If you could hit the like button or even comment a random emoji, I'd so appreciate it. Since I'm a smaller channel, anytime you interact, it really helps me out because it tells YouTube this video is worth watching. Also, feel free to try out that new hype feature YouTube has just launched. It would make my freaking day if you hyped my video. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss tomorrow's video. You can see it ad-free on my Patreon. Again, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.